Hey there, chatters. I'm Nat.
And I'm Kat, and welcome to the Crime Chat. I am your forensic femme fatale, Natalie, is your true crime-matic connoisseur.
We're just two normal girls obsessed with dark crimes, evil minds, and occasionally the unknown.
And here's your disclaimer, chatters. The following Crime Chat contains adult content and descriptions of violent and very controversial scenarios today. So your listener discretion is advised.
You've been warned. But before we get into today's crime chat, Kat, what have you done? How you feeling?
Feeling good? Making progress. Every day is a day forward. That's what
Good.
I say. Although, okay, so my finals were due in the class that I am in this week, and I started teaching. It's week 1 of undergrad, so I've been sitting a little bit more and not moving around as much as I should.
Okay.
But I am accommodating and adjusting myself to my limitations.
So you've been binging a
No,
lot.
I've been schooling. I've been schooling.
Okay.
I've been schooled.
Okay.
So we haven't really watched anything new. We started rewatching The Terror because Chris really, really liked that, and How I Met Your Mother. I love How I Met Your Mother. So because there's so many seasons of that, that's really what we've been really watching. You've seen How I Met Your Mother.
I have not watched every season, but I've seen like the first season. I poked around a little bit.
Yeah. And we're kind of getting towards how he actually met the mother. Because, it's like Ted dates all these women. He's like, but that's not your mother, because he's telling the story. I think it takes place in like 2034 or something like that.
Right.
Kids, this is a story about how I met your mother, 14 seasons later.
Right.
But it's so good. It's so funny and like realistic, and they throw a lot of the things that happened in like previous episodes or even previous seasons to kind of like tie it into what they're doing. And I don't know, I love that show. I really do. So that's been kind of my guilty pleasure in between school.
Okay.
That's it. Lame. I know. What about you?
So you already know that I am obsessed with the game that has not yet come out. It's been
Right. Yeah.
demoed. We Harvest Shadows, which is a farming simulator / haunting story. I don't know. It's creepy.
But it's like choose your own path kind of thing, right? It's all interactive. Like you make one choice and
no.
oh, it's not. Oh.
No, so We Harvest Shadows doesn't give you like options to change path or whatever. It just kind of like plops you down in this haunted house on a farm, and you kind of just have to make do with what's there. And like you don't have to do a damn thing. Like you can just sit there and starve to death, or you could just like harvest some tomatoes.
I don't know why Mario Brothers just popped in my head. When he's down there and he's facing, oh God, what is the Godzilla character name?
Donkey Kong. No.
You know who I'm talking about. Oh, jeez. Alexa, who is Mario Brothers' nemesis?
From Ranker.com. King of
Bowser.
Bowser is Mario and Luigi's most fierce and dreaded enemy.
Okay. But I think I know who you're talking about.
He's like, it looks like Godzilla, and he's got the shell. He's like a mutated turtle. And he's got the shell with the spikes on it. Yeah.
Yes. I've seen that. Okay. So with that said, and I'm sitting here just like waiting and waiting for this game to come out, which may never come out. I started playing around with other games that are like farming simulators, and I am hooked on Farmer's Destiny. So it's a farming simulator like game, and like after work, I sit down and I'll play this. So relaxing. Just the noises of the background with the chirping birds and the chickens and the cows and like your harvester going around and stuff like that. Well, I didn't realize this, but in this game, you can build an entire family. So I got married. My wife is pregnant. Dog, I got a cat. And you know what I do every morning? Because in this game, you can choose like what you want to say to people, like in the what they call the NPCs, the non-playable characters. You can react, engage with them. And every morning I get up and I go to my wife and I say, "You're beautiful." And then I walk away and say, "Bye, I gotta go." Every single I'm like, see, I would make a great husband. I would.
Have you ever seen the movie Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds?
No.
So the premise of that movie is Ryan Reynolds is one of those like background characters, and he learns from an actual player these different tricks and stuff, and that's because he's like fascinated with her kind of thing, and he's like, what do they call? They have like an NPC or something like that, like a non-personal character or whatever, like non-dominant
playable character.
Yeah, playable character. So the whole movie is a premise about how He started off doing the same exact thing every day, told his fish good morning, wore the same shirt, same pants to work, stopped and got the same coffee every morning,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then something happens, flips a switch, and he realizes that he can gain like all these points. And then the video game creator was like, how is an NPC doing this? Kind of thing. So it's like a really cute movie. It really is.
Right.
You
I
should
gotta
watch
check
it.
that out.
Yeah, it's called Free Guy.
Okay. I'll check that out.
His name is Guy, and they're like, Free Guy.
It's like the Truman Show. I love the Truman Show. It's a
Yeah.
great movie.
God, I haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's old. I can't believe how
Yeah,
how time flies.
I know.
So that's basically all I've done. So
Yeah, and here we are.
yes, here we are, and we are
We got
recording.
headlines.
We got episode 124. I kind of know what you're going to go over,
Yeah.
but you asked me to do the Nat's Nutty News. All
Yes.
right.
We
So
need to lighten it up before we get super heavy.
okay. All right. Well, welcome to Nat's Nutty News. The
Yes.
only segment that makes you question reality and your insanity all at once.
Oh, yes.
I'm Nat,
Totally.
your host, okay, and your tour guide through the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest headlines from around the globe. You ever thought your life was strange? Buckle up. These stories are going to make your dramas look downright boring, Kat.
Yeah.
Me and my farming simulator. It's going to be very easy.
Wait. What's your name? What did
My
you
name-
name yourself?
Oh, I don't have a name. Ironically, I'm the main character, and I don't get a name. I'm just Farmer. My wife is Janet. My son is Timmy. My cat's James. My dog is Rex.
You didn't name your cat Teddy?
Teddy is very jealous because he's James. I tell Teddy, I'm like, Teddy, why can't you be like James? He just sits there. Doesn't attack me. Okay. Today we've got everything from Power Rangers arresting carnival criminals to cult moms planning jailbreaks with heavenly backup.
Yes.
Seriously, folks, even fiction can't top this madness. So sit back, relax. Let's dive into today's lineup of hilarious, bizarre news that's nuttier than Nat herself.
That's questionable. No, I'm just kidding.
And this time, I'm going to add a little bit of the New York opinion. It's going to chime in a little bit, okay? Because I'm writing these things, and I'm like, all right, as a New Yorker, what am I thinking when I see this, okay? And I just added that at the end. All right, so let's start. Number 1, Power Rangers save the carnival. San Paulo, Brazil, February 20th, 2025, reported by the BBC. In a scene straight from a comic book, San Paulo police officers dressed as Power Rangers and heroically chased down and captured a notorious carnival thief, Carlos Mendez, who had swiped several mobile phones from the festival goers. Spectators applauded the Rangers. The average New Yorker's response, though, and this is actually quoted. So this is quoted when I read through this. Okay, somebody from, I believe, the Village Voice in New York commented on this story, and they said, anyone could be superhero with a good pair of Spanx. That is so New York. Yes. They always got to search for that zero.
I've never worn Spanx.
What? Girl. No. You ever watch that movie, Steel Magnolias?
Oh, yeah. Love it.
Okay.
Totally.
You know Dolly Parton when she's like, you know what? Every respectable young lady has been in Spanx since she was 13 or something. It's so funny. That's so
I'm just not respectable.
But that's what seriously, like I remember growing up and like the minute you kind of like start developing, like everybody's in Spanx. I don't know why. I don't
know. I never was.
Okay. Well, moving on. Next one. Bloody letter prank turns into Scotland Yard visit in London, UK. Your neck of the woods, right? England.
Radio, chap.
This happened in January 17th, 2025, reported by the Entertainment Weekly. Actor Joe Alwyn and his brother Tom learned an unforgettable childhood lesson after trying to prank their neighbors by sending letters soaked in fake blood.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Cheese and crackers.
Yeah. Things escalated hilariously out of control when the actual Scotland Yard detective showed up at the doorstep. Thankfully, the detectives quickly realized that they weren't chasing hardened criminals, just two terrified kids who probably need therapy or, come on, some special edition of CrimeChat.
Ooh.
Right?
I just looked up a picture of him. Yeah, I kind of recognize him. I couldn't tell you what he was in, but he did date Taylor Swift, the T-Swift.
Okay, so next one. Police respond to burrito rescue mission. This happened in Sydney, Australia, January 23rd, 2025, and this was reported by news.com. Sarah and Brian Jakins returned home from grocery shopping and noticed their recently purchased burritos were missing. Panicking, they began urgently they began searching their car trunk under the tarp. So I guess they tarped their car. I don't know where this tarp came in, but yeah. So
Maybe it doesn't work right and they have to tarp it. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe in the trunk, it's one of those that has those convertible tarps. Because I know in like Australia, they have those. What do they call those type of cars? They have a name for it. It's like half car, half truck.
Like an El Camino.
Yeah, like an El Camino. Yes, yes. It looks like that, but it's called an UT or UT. I don't know. Do you know?
I'm looking. UT, UTE. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, it has like that back where you like cover it with a tarp. So I think that's what they're
it's an El
referring to.
Camino. Like a newer model, like more rounded.
It's not as obnoxious as our El Camino. I mean, come on.
Right.
We just slapped a pickup on a Cadillac. That's all we did. Okay, so a nearby witness saw their frantic activity and mistakenly assumed something suspicious was occurring and called the police. Officers quickly arrived, expecting a serious crime, but instead found the Jenkins family simply looking for their lost snacks. The humorous
burritos sound really good right now.
The humorous misunderstanding ended with the burritos safely located. Much to everyone's relief, authorities confirmed that all burritos and family members were safely recovered. New Yorkers heard about this and responded, if it ain't pizza, it ain't worth calling the cops. Love it. All right. Well, the next
burritos. I haven't eaten dinner yet, so.
Oh, so you're starving. You're hangry.
Yes.
You're hangry. Okay. So now next one. Too hot for crime. Australia again. February 12th, 2025, reported by the Herald Sun, a man named Sam Evans carried out a strange crime spree involving theft, vandalism, and property damage totaling $30,000. When arrested, Evans explained his actions by blaming the intense heat wave affecting the region at the time. He claimed it was too hot. I do weird things when it's hot. That is God's excuse. We all have that. I mean, when you get so hot, you sit there and you're like, I'm going to explode. I'm going to do something.
Something's going to happen. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I kind of relate with him. I don't know if I would. I don't know if
I get that every night. I get those hot flashes every night. Yeah. I do weird things.
Yeah, seriously, Sam. We don't commit vandalism and steal stuff when we have hot flashes. So get a grip. So authorities did not accept his unusual excuse and sentenced him to jail, jokingly reassuring him he'd now have plenty of cool air conditioning. In a blog, New Yorkers invited him to sit in the subway in July eating a Ralph's snow cone. And they forget about it. Have you ever had a Ralph's Ice?
Gosh, I don't think I have.
The original Ralph's Ice place originated in Staten Island. And there was a thing. It was only open for 3 months. So you would have to go there, wait online that wrapped around the block.
Like 3 months out of the year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And 3 or 4 months out of the year. And it was only open like Thursday through Saturday. Like it was just weird. It was just a weird setup. But they made, oh my God, thousands of dollars a night. That the line was just wrapped around the block. It was crazy. But
go, Ralph.
It's almost like Nathan's story where it really is a little shop. You know, I just got a reputation, and it can open one day a week and still make ends meet.
I think so. It reminds me in Missouri. And now, mind you, it snowed while we were there. We were in there in the middle of winter, and we went and got frozen custard. Have you ever had frozen custard?
No, it sounds delicious though.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
so
it sounds delicious.
So imagine like a Dairy Queen or something like that has the ice cream mix, any kind of flavors, candy bars, anything you want in it. But it's frozen custard, and it's so smooth and so creamy. It's called Andes. And Andes is like the pinnacle it's like the same thing, but they sell out in the middle of winter in Missouri. Like we went there like 2 or 3 times in the week that I was there. And my mother-in-law's birthday was after when she retired. Her boss still lives down here. Sent her a $50 gift card for Andes.
She's going to use that.
Oh yeah. So good.
All right. Well, the last one, we're familiar with this case because this is a famous crime. Well, we didn't do it yet, but Bailey Sarian has done this girl before. So this is like a really bad case. But anyway, update. So She did pop up in the weird Nat's Nutty News universe, and
Okay.
the headline reads, Cult Mom's Divine Jailbreak Plan. This is in Boise, Idaho, February 9th, 2025, reported by the New York Post. Lori Vallow, known as the Cult Mom, due to her involvement in a high-profile criminal case involving the murder of her 2 children. She made headlines recently by bizarrely claiming she would soon escape prison through divine intervention. Vallow suggested that supernatural forces or divine beings would assist her in leaving custody. Boise prison official responded to her claims, reassuring the public that they were prepared for any supernatural scenarios, including angels or any other mythical interventions.
And unless it's a demon, we'll let them take her down to hell.
Right.
Ugh.
And then I got a quote from a New Yorker who says, New Yorkers are curious about Boise's power play divine interventions and asked for assistance with finding parking in Manhattan. So that is my nutty news / comment section.
Well, ironically enough, Idaho makes a cameo appearance in the story today.
Oh, okay.
You'll see. You'll find out.
Idaho. Okay.
No divine interventions at all.
Okay, damn it.
0. None. Well, there'll be a bit of a spiritual moment here.
Okay.
All right. Well, okay, get into it. Today's story is covering a historical and controversial event in modern history, and a first for the state of South Carolina. On Friday, March 7th, 2025, Brad Sigmund was executed by firing squad. At the age of 67, he is the oldest person put to death ever in the state. And not only was he the first person in nearly 15 years to be executed this way, but he was also the first person ever in the state of South Carolina to be executed by firing squad. Like, ever.
Easy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. More than 1,600 executions have taken place in the United States since the 1970s, and the vast majority have been carried out by lethal injection. And this is according to the Death Penalty Information Center, or DPI, a nonprofit resource for data for the practice's execution. Now, DPI states that more than 160 inmates have died by electrocution and 15 by the gas chamber. The earliest recorded execution by firing squad, however, was in Jamestown, Virginia in 1608. Captain George Kendall was suspected of mutiny and possibly conspiring with Spain. Centuries later, in 1996, archaeologists discovered a bullet-ridden body buried in the fort's walls that many suspect was Captain Kendall.
Wow.
During the American Revolution, public executions by firing squad were sometimes used to punish desertion. Like if you wanted to desert, like you were died. I mean, honestly, the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, desertion during wartime is, I believe, also punishable by death as a maximum sentence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then also during the Civil War, firing squads were used by both sides, the North and the South, to create public spectacle and a vision of terror to keep soldiers in line. So what led to the current firing squad method of execution? I think a lot of people are just like, what? This is surprising. This seems so old. Like
the method seems a little dated. Yeah.
Well, you might learn a little bit more and be convinced otherwise.
Oh, okay. Convince me.
Maybe. Yeah. I'm just putting it out there. It may change your mind. So currently only 5 states, Idaho, bing, 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 Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Utah, allow the execution by firing squad, and this is also according to DPI. Since 1608, at least 144 prisoners have been executed this way, and nearly all of those have been in Utah, up until the 1972 Supreme Court decision that the death penalty was unconstitutional. Since the Supreme Court reinstated executions in 1976, only 3 inmates since then have been executed by firing squad, all of them in Utah. What the fuck, Utah? In Mississippi and Oklahoma, the firing squad option is available if nitrogen hypoxia or the gas chamber, lethal injection, and electrocution are held either unconstitutional or are otherwise unavailable. Idaho could become the only state that allows the firing squad as its primary form of execution after a bill passed at the state legislature just a few weeks ago. The bill is now headed to the desk of Republican Governor Brad Little for his signature, but until then, Idaho allows the firing squad execution as a backup method only if lethal injection drugs are not available. In 2021, the South Carolina General Assembly passed a law to restore the electric chair as a death penalty method and voted also to add the firing squad as an additional option. This was part of an effort to resume executions in South Carolina because they had been put on hold since 2013 when the state ran out of the pharmaceuticals required to administer lethal injections, which was following an international controversy over drug manufacturers. So there was like a shortage of lethal injection. And at the same time, like humanitarian human rights issues came up, kind of peaked around at the same time. Like, why are we even using it kind of thing?
Right. Well,
In also 2021, Dick Harpootlian, a former South Carolina prosecutor and senator from Illinois, said that he made the proposal of the firing squad to the South Carolina state legislature because he believed it was more humane alternative to the electric chair. So while he personally wrestled with pushing for this method, Harpootlian said, quote, "I thought then, and I believe now, the electric chair is a horrendous, barbaric way to kill somebody," end quote.
oh wait, Dick is Democratic.
Oh, he is Democrat.
He's a Democrat. When you said Illinois, blue for like 50 years, like so.
He said it. I mean, he said he personally wrestled with pushing it through South Carolina state legislation, but
He
he
feels
felt that the electric chair was more barbaric
Well,
and
yeah, I could see
than
that.
firing squad. And we'll get to kind of the time it takes to die for all of them,
Oh, okay, okay,
which may sway your opinion. May.
okay.
I'm not saying it should. I'm giving you the facts. Just the facts, Nat. Just the facts. So, as a side note, really quick, as a prosecutor, Harpootlian also was the one that sent the notorious South Carolina serial killer Pee Wee Gaskins to the electric chair. And we covered this notorious serial killer, Pee Wee Gaskins, in season 1. It was a chatter request.
Right.
Episode 18. It seemed like it wasn't that long ago, but it was. So,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
So in South Carolina, death row inmates must choose their method of execution. One of 3 options currently: lethal injection, electric chair, or firing squad. However, there have been growing concerns over the state's lethal injection procedures, where the pentobarbital, a powerful sedative, causes death by asphyxiation. Following recent executions, lawyers for death row inmates have increasingly raised concerns that the sedative used causes unnecessarily painful death. We'll get to another example. So, with the passing of the firing squad as an optional method for execution, South Carolina had to make preparations for the firing squad method to be actually carried out. The state spent $54,000 constructing its firing squad area in 2022. The plan was set for the execution to be carried out with the inmate hooded and strapped to a chair. A 3-member firing squad team armed with rifles containing live ammunition will be set to open fire once the warden reads the execution order. There is no countdown. It's not like 10, 9, 8, 7. It's an immediate upon the execution order.
Mm-hmm.
The firing squad team, who are employees of the Department of Corrections and voluntarily take part to be part of this team, stand about 15 feet away from the prisoner before shooting. Witnesses to the execution include reporters, family members of the victims and or the inmates, attorneys, and prison staff. They would only actually see the right side profile of an inmate behind this bulletproof glass. So it's not like they would have a full on. Other executions, like you can see him full on. Like if it's lethal injection, like it feels like you're face to face with the guy. Like, so I think the side profile makes it less not impactful, because it's still impactful because you're literally seeing a guy get shot to death kind of thing. But I think they're trying to minimize that a little bit.
Yeah, I never understood the public display of somebody being executed. I never understood that. That, if anything, should be shut down. It's that.
Well, I do think they try to minimize the amount of witnesses. They want to offer it obviously up to the attorneys, make sure everything goes in the way it's supposed to go, whether you're prosecutor or defense, to the families of the victims, because a lot of them will want to be like, I want to see this person die because they killed my loved one. And then, of course, the family of the inmate who this is their loved person that's dying. So I mean, and then of course, I think for this one, there wasn't very many members of the press. I got some information from an Associated Press guy who was one of them that witnessed it. But I want to say there was probably only 2, maybe 3 press members that were actually witnesses. So according to Sigmund's attorney, Gerald Bowe King, Bowe is so South Carolina. Okay. Sigmund actually faced a very impossible choice in his method of execution: lethal injection, electrocution, or firing squad. And then just hours before his execution, the United States Supreme Court did decline to take up Sigmund's case. So who is Brad Sigmund? Brad Keith Sigmund was born November 12th, 1957 in South Carolina to Ronnie Sigmund and Virginia Wooten. He was the oldest of 5 children. Sigmund's mother was 17 years old when she gave birth to him and bore more children 1 year apart from each other, like then or after, like one right after the other. Bam, bam,
Yeah.
bam. Sigmund's father was in the U.S. military, and as duty calls, the family frequently moved, including to the Philippines shortly after the birth of Sigmund's youngest sibling.
Mm-hmm.
Sigmund's father, Ronnie, was an alcoholic who did abuse his wife, and his parents eventually divorced when he was still young. This, along with other challenges of being a young mother and adapting to military life, proved to be very difficult for Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Although Ronnie allegedly never laid a hand on any of his 4 younger children, he did physically abuse Brad Sigmund because, as the eldest child, he would often try to protect his mother from getting
Aw.
beaten by his father.
Yeah.
I understand that. Totally understand that. Sigmund's parents eventually remarried other people, and
Mhm.
Sigmund often moved back and forth between the homes of his parents and step-parents. After his parents' divorce, he took the responsibility of taking care of his younger siblings. He began to work at the age of 16 while he was still in high school to help alleviate families' financial burdens. And according to court records, he stated he was abused by his stepmother and was homeless as a teenager.
Oh my God.
At the age of 19, Sigmund dropped out of high school, apparently 9 weeks before he was supposed to graduate,
Mm-hmm.
to get married. He later had a son and a daughter, but did eventually get divorced. According to Sigmund's children, parents, siblings, stepfather, and aunt, Brad Sigmund was a loving son, father, and brother who deeply cared about his family. Court sources revealed that Sigmund struggled with both drug use problems and mental health issues during his adulthood.
Mm.
According to Sigmund's attorney, Bo, he was, quote, a hard worker and a loving brother who worked factory shifts as a teenager to make sure his brothers and sisters could eat, end quote. He said that Sigmund became a tortured man because of an undiagnosed mental illness that caused, quote, irrational and impulsive episodes, end quote, something he tried to treat with street drugs. In the late 1990s, Sigmund began to date Rebecca Barber. What do you think it is?
I think it's Barber.
Is it Barber?
I would just say it phonetically, Barber.
They lived in a trailer near her parents, William David, he went by David, and then
Mhm.
Gladys Gwendolyn Lark. In Taylor, South Carolina, I've been to Taylor, South Carolina several times. It
Mhm.
is in the upstate in Greenville County. Remember when we talked about South Carolina crimes before, we talked about like the different sections. I'm in the Midlands, there's the Low
Right.
Country, there's the PD area, there's the upstate. Yeah, so this is in the upstate.
Low Country has a dance too, right?
The Shag, baby.
That's right.
Yeah. In early 2001, Rebecca ended her relationship with Sigmund and moved in with her parents. Sigmund became progressively obsessed with Rebecca, even to the point of stalking her to see if she was dating another man. He also made multiple requests to get back together with her, but Rebecca consistently denied. When Rebecca fell out of love with him, Sigmund stated, quote, that it set me off. Did I love her more than anything else in the world? End quote. On April 26, 2001, then the 43-year-old Sigmund spent the night drinking alcohol and doing some coke with a buddy, Eugene Strube. The following morning, Sigmund told Eugene that when Rebecca left to take the children to school, she had three kids at the time,
Okay.
he was going to go into the Larks' home, tie them up, and then, quote unquote, get a hold of Rebecca. Eugene was supposed to actually assist Sigmund in this attempt, but he did back out.
Okay.
So alone, Sigmund followed through with his plan, and he was armed with a baseball bat.
Oh boy.
He entered the Larks' home, finding 62-year-old David in the kitchen and 59-year-old Gladys in the living room. Sigmund attacked and beat them one after the other with the bat, going back and forth between them.
Oh my God.
Sigmund only stopped once they died, and this took less than 2 minutes. That's it.
Wow.
Each of the Larks sustained 9 blows to the head and crushed skulls. Sigmund then stole David's gun and sat there and waited for Rebecca to come back home. When
Mhm.
she did, Sigmund forced her into a car at gunpoint. He planned to pick up his car because they lived like right next to her parents. So he
Mhm.
planned to go pick up his car and then flee with Rebecca to North Carolina. However, at some point, Rebecca jumped out of the car and ran away. She did manage to escape, but not before Sigmund shot at her while she was literally running for her life. She did
Oh,
get shot in the foot once before he ran out of bullets.
thank God. Okay.
Rebecca subsequently underwent treatment at the Greenville Memorial Hospital, where she probably likely gave a police statement about that morning's events.
Mhm.
So, a manhunt ensued. Sigmund was on the run for 11 days before being captured in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. He was arrested and charged for 2 counts of murder, kidnapping, and assault with intent to kill. He was extradited back to South Carolina, and then from the start, it was no secret that the state was planning to seek the death penalty. In
Yeah.
July of 2002, Sigmund stood trial, and he reportedly admitted his guilt to the jury. The jury subsequently did find him guilty on all charges, and they were then deciding on his sentence. At sentencing, Sigmund gave a bizarre and rambling statement that included the following, quote, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I am guilty. I have no excuse for what I did. It's my fault, and I'm not trying to blame nobody else for it, and I'm sorry. I hate what I did." End quote.
Wow.
Nonetheless, Sigmund was sentenced to death. In response, Sigmund stated, quote, "Do I deserve to die? I probably do. I don't want to die. It would kill my mom, my brothers, and my sister. I just want to live for my family's sake." End quote. His defense team said that his statements were the result of an undiagnosed and untreated bipolar disorder. This was just one of the elements of Sigmund's tragic background that his attorney said were not properly presented to the jury. Mental illness supposedly also ran rampant and severe in the Sigmund family among his siblings. Many had been diagnosed with bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, and had suicide ideations, according to court filings. Sigmund's attorney, Bo King, said, quote, "The jury that sentenced him had no idea of how severely compromised his mental health was, or that he was probably incompetent even to stand trial." End quote. During this time in prison, Sigmund became a devout Christian and a mentor to others on death row. Bo King said Sigmund had been transformed to be a repentant, God-loving man and a peaceful, trusted presence on death row. Hillary Taylor, a Methodist pastor and Sigmund's spiritual advisor, also said, quote, "So often the people who commit violence are themselves first victims of violence." End quote. She wishes people could have heard the depth of his remorse and that Sigmund's desire was to be a solution to violence. Sigmund appealed his case and sentence numerous times. On December 19, 2005, the South Carolina Supreme Court turned down his direct appeal against 2 death sentences and double murder conviction. On May 8, 2013, Sigmund's second appeal to the United States Supreme Court was also rejected. September 30th, 2018, the U.S. District Court for the District of South Carolina dismissed his first federal appeal. April 14th, 2020, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals rejected Sigmund's appeal. And on January 11, 2021, Sigmund's final appeal was dismissed by the U.S. Supreme Court. After exhausting all avenues of appeal, Sigmund was originally scheduled to be executed on February 12, 2021. However, on February 5th, 1 week before his execution date, he was issued an indefinite stay of execution by the state of South Carolina Supreme Court. The court found that the state did not have the drugs necessary to facilitate the execution, which was lethal injection. In response to the state's inability to carry out lethal injections, lawmakers in South Carolina passed new legislation to reintroduce and legalize the electric chair and the firing squad as alternative methods for future executions when lethal injections were not an option. They were kind of stuck at this point. They couldn't do lethal injections, so we needed to do something else.
Yeah.
The absence of lethal injection drugs in the state would eventually be resolved in September of 2023 after the state's authorities had successfully acquired new drugs, allowing it to resume lethal injection executions. However, in response to this new state legislation, the South Carolina Department of Corrections detailed the room setup and protocols for how a firing squad execution would be carried out. The rifles by 3 members of a firing team would not be visible to witnesses, and they would all be loaded with live rounds. According to some medical professionals, the use of a firing squad is thought to cause nearly instant unconsciousness, and the large caliber bullets at the heart would instantly stop the blood to the brain, which, like a cardiac arrest, causes rapid loss of brain function. So they're basically saying it would be less suffering.
To
and we'll
who?
get to the victim.
Oh.
If you have 3 rifles, 308 Winchester rifle rounds to the heart, it's not going to take long. I'll get to it in a minute, but the lethal injections take a long time, which kind of causes suffering. And then the electric chair, you're just being cooked alive. Anyway, so after the new laws were passed, Sigmund and another death row inmate, Freddie Eugene Owens, had new execution dates set. Sigmund was rescheduled for execution by electric chair on June 18th, 2021, and then Owens' date was 1 week later, June 25th, 2021. However, Sigmund's second death warrant was suspended, as well as Owen's, after the South Carolina Supreme Court ruled that executions of Sigmund and Owens should be postponed until they were given a choice of death by electrocution or firing squad. Because this was like when they were given the second death warrant, it was in the time that they were making the firing squad an option. They wanted to make sure that they had the option. Another reason the court stayed their execution was that both Owens and Sigmund had filed a lawsuit against the state's revival of the electric chair as an option. On May 13, 2022, Sigmund's third death warrant was issued. However, in light of a lawsuit, another one, that condemned the electric chair and firing squad as execution methods, Sigmund received another stay of execution until the full resolution of the lawsuit. In 2023, Sigmund was among several death row prisoners who filed a lawsuit against South Carolina over the state's decision to introduce the firing squad and the electric chair as alternative execution methods. The inmates argued that these methods were unconstitutional because they could inflict unnecessary pain and suffering.
Supposed to kill you.
Well, yeah.
You're supposed to be dead.
You're
Nobody
supposed to
cares.
die.
Yeah, nobody's
Nobody
thinking
said
about your
dying
pain.
is easy.
Right, it's not easy.
Yeah, you beat 2 people to death with a bat. You don't think that was suffering?
Thank you.
No,
Like
I mean, just
I just
saying.
yeah. The audacity sometimes is just a little
Audacity.
unchecked.
So, inflict unnecessary pain and suffering, constituting cruel and unusual punishment. In response, the state argued that both the electric chair and the firing squad adhered to existing legal procedures, and there was no legal precedence requiring the executions to be instantaneous or painless for the sentence of death.
Well, there you go. They were
There you
like,
go.
we don't care if you're not in pain. You could be in pain.
So that was the argument, but it was actually decided in a 5-judge ruling at the South Carolina Supreme Court. They dismissed the lawsuit and upheld the constitutionality of both the electric chair and the firing squad.
Yeah.
This ruling paved the way for potential resumption of executions in South Carolina, affecting the 32 inmates that were currently on the state's death row at the time, which included Brad Sigmund. At the time of the ruling, 5 condemned inmates consisted of Sigmund, Freddie Eugene Owens, who I mentioned earlier, Mikhail Mahdi, Richard Bernard Moore, and Marion Bowman Jr. They all exhausted all avenues of appeal and were listed for imminent execution with later dates. The 13-year pause on executions in South Carolina came to an end on September 20th, 2024, when one of the 5 inmates, Freddie Owens, was executed by lethal injection for the 1997 murder of Irene Granger Graves, a convenience store clerk. A couple months later, Richard Moore became the second inmate to die on November 1st, 2024, also by lethal injection. Moore was convicted of a 1999 murder of James Mahoney, who was also a convenience store clerk. It's like robbery's gone bad, like robbery's gone wrong.
Yeah.
In 2022, Moore's case received international attention. He was scheduled for execution and did opt by firing squad under the state's new capital punishment laws. He was set to become the first person executed in South Carolina in over a decade and the first to be executed by firing squad in the state. However, his execution was stayed by the state Supreme Court on April 20th, 2022, but he ended up getting lethal injection. And then third inmate, Marion Bowman Jr., was executed January 31st, 2025, earlier this year, also by lethal injection. On February 16th, 2001, Bowman shot and killed 21-year-old high school acquaintance Candy Louise Martin, stuffed her body in a trunk of a car, and then set it on fire.
Oh, my God.
Horrible. Oh, my God. Yes. February 7th, 2025, the South Carolina Supreme Court issued Sigmund's death warrant and scheduled his execution for March 7th, 2025. The court gave him until February 21st to elect his preferred method of execution with the options of lethal injection, electrocution, or firing squad. If declined to choose a method, the electric chair would be chosen by default. According to Sigmund's lawyers, he faced what they called an impossible choice. He didn't want to die in the electric chair, where he said he would be burned and cooked alive, and wanted to choose between the firing squad and lethal injection. However, he was hesitant to pick lethal injection due to witness accounts that the state's 3 previous executions that I just mentioned that were done by lethal injection, they were pronounced dead no less than 20 minutes after receiving a single dose of pentobarbital.
They were still alive?
So he felt that it was a prolonged death in which his 3 friends, who he cared for, they were doing time together, his friends appeared to suffer from drowning and suffocation. And Sigmund felt any one of these 3 options that he had to choose from is going to be a violent death. Well, he violently killed 2 people with a baseball bat. Sorry.
Oh, well.
A week after the death warrant was signed, Sigmund filed an appeal for a stay of execution before selecting the preferred method of execution. He asked the court to delay his death warrant until his lawyers received the autopsy report of Marion Bowman Jr., whose execution took place at this time only a couple weeks prior. February 21st, Sigmund appealed to the South Carolina Supreme Court for them to hear more evidence of his brain damage, his mental illness, and childhood trauma, all factors which his attorney said made him ineligible for capital punishment.
He's 60 something years old. Get over it. Get over
Yeah.
it. Like, come
Yeah.
on. So
He was, 43, I think I said at the time of the incident. He was like 42, 43. I think he was 43. His attorney said he wasn't eligible for capital punishment, although he did not wish to inflict this type of pain on his family, executioners, and witnesses. Sigmund did decide that the firing squad was the best option in light of the alleged risks of a lethal injection that was highlighted by the previous executions conducted before his. So, February 27th, after the release of Marion Brown's autopsy report, Sigmund appealed to the South Carolina Supreme State Court to further delay his execution. Sigmund stated that he was entitled to further information regarding the lethal injection drug and administration procedure, which, I mean, I kind of get that, you know. His lawyers claimed that Sigmund was forced to choose a violent death to him fearing a more torturous death by lethal injection with double doses of pentobarbital, stating that Marion Bowman had fluid in his lungs, which led to the sensation of drowning. So, in the autopsy report, that's how they got all that. That it seemed like he had drowned and was asphyxiated, and it took
okay.
him at least 20 minutes to die
Oh my God. It's crazy.
with this pentobarbital dosage. However, on March 4th, 2025, the South Carolina Supreme Court unanimously denied Sigmund's request for his last stay of execution. Bo King also requested clemency from the South Carolina governor, Henry McMaster, stating that Brad Sigmund today is not the same man and does not deserve execution. King argued that Sigmund transformed his life in prison, rededicated himself to his Christian faith, and posed no further danger while incarcerated.
Huh.
In response to the upcoming execution of her former boyfriend, Rebecca Barbara, who's now known as Rebecca Armstrong, I'll take it, stated that she did not believe in the death penalty, but nonetheless wanted Sigmund to face the consequences for murdering her parents. Armstrong said her parents were, quote, simple country folks with 5 children who often looked out for people around them, and her father had a good heart. They were the ones keeping the family together, end quote. Armstrong's son, the grandson of the Larks, planned to attend the execution. Rebecca was not going to attend the execution, but her son wanted to see Sigmund pay the ultimate price for murdering his grandparents. With his last day of execution being denied, Sigmund faced his fate on March 7, 2025. For his last meal, he requested Kentucky Fried Chicken, which included 4 pieces of fried chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes, biscuits and gravy, cheesecake, and sweet tea. On the day of his execution, about 30 protesters stood outside of the Broad River Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina, just down the road, attempting at one last effort to push a stay of execution, feeling that the executions were wrong because God is the ultimate arbiter in death and of human being. I'm sorry. Was Brad playing God when he killed those 2 people?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know where that leads to. Like, I think everybody's entitled to kind of like protest this and have an opinion like, oh,
Absolutely, 100%.
poor him.
Yes.
Well, what's the end game? Like, okay, so he's
Well,
alive for
he's
the next
repented, right? So
30
he's
years.
repented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
leave Christians alone. Okay, like it seems like that's their first ploy. Like, let's become a
Absolutely.
Christian. Let's pray a little bit, and suddenly I'm a better person. Leave
Well, our
Christians
country
alone.
was founded on Puritanism. You ever looked into the dark history of Puritanism?
Right, but what does that have to do with this? Like,
I'm just saying
that's
that's how
yeah,
we were founded. It's like in our like core
yeah. I'm
kind of
sure.
thing.
History is dark, but like this, leave religion. Like, it's just so obnoxious. Like, come on,
Yeah.
like. He's a murderer and he's got protesters that don't. What's the end game here? Okay, so say he doesn't get executed. Who's going to flip the bill for this guy till
Oh,
the
we
end of
are.
his days? Right.
We
So
are.
unless these 30 protesters want to come together and say, okay, so it's going to be
We'll
3
pay for
million,
it. Yeah.
we'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Just shut up. Like,
I know.
you're part of the problem. Anyway.
Well, these 30 protesters were outside holding a variety of signs that included no more killing, all life is precious,
Right.
and eye for an eye makes the world blind. On Friday, March 7th, 2025, Brad Keith Sigmund was executed. Witnesses stated that the entire event took only minutes. Just after 6 p.m., the death chamber's curtain was pulled back to reveal Sigmund strapped to a metal chair. On the other side of the bulletproof glass, straps ran across his chest and his legs were shackled, his arms were pinned to his side. Sigmund was dressed in a black jumpsuit, not like the orange jumpsuit that you usually see him in, and then black plastic shoes. A white rectangular target with a red bullseye was pinned to his chest. Even though a sling was holding his jaw in place, he did appear to mouth to his attorney, "It's okay."
Okay.
A hood was placed over his head, and then an employee of the Department of Corrections lifted a covering that was then exposed to brick wall, which is where those 3 gun ports were.
Okay.
It was about 15 feet away from where he was strapped. Just after 6:05 p.m., the simultaneous crack of 3 rifles broke the silence within the death chamber. He was declared dead at 6:08 p.m. Upon the announcement of his death, protesters outside of the Broad River Correctional Facility prayed and a bell was tolled. Bill King read Sigmund's final statement to witnesses, which also included 3 members of the Lark family, a representative of the Greenville Solicitor's Office, the Greenville Sheriff's Office, and Christy Shane, the Director of Communications at the South Carolina Department of Corrections. Sigmund's final statement called for, quote, "My fellow Christians to end the death penalty, for sin shall not have dominion over you." And then he cited Romans 6:14, quote, "For you are no longer under the law, but grace," end quote. Christy Shane, the Director of Communications, also read part of his last statement in a press conference immediately following the execution. Quote, "An eye for an eye was used as justification to the jury for seeking the death penalty. At the time, I was too ignorant to know what that was. Why? Because we no longer live under the Old Testament law, but now live under the New Testament," end quote. So no wonder he had a bunch of religious followers.
When people start injecting religion into stuff like this, it's scary. These are the very weak-minded people that they're the ones
Have you
that
ever
start.
seen Left Behind? That's scary shit.
No. It's Left Behind. What's that? Is that a movie? What is that?
It's a movie about revelations in the Bible, the end of days.
Oh, I got no.
And
Is
it's
it?
Kirk Cameron is in it.
Oh,
Do you
I
remember
don't.
Kirk Cameron?
I remember him from, what was he in? Valerie's Family? No, no, no. What was he in?
Family Ties?
No,
No.
that's Michael J.
That was Michael
Fox.
J. Fox.
God,
Yes, yes.
little off topic, but anyway.
I know.
So it just seems like I get Lori Vallow feelings. I get Charles Manson feelings. I get
Mhm.
it's scary when people start commingling religion with murder
Yeah.
and all this stuff.
Yep.
Keep it separated, people. Church and state, keep it separated.
But the thing is, too, is people are so passionate. Some people are so passionate about their religion that it drives what they do and are unable to divide one from the other, especially here in the South, honey.
Scary, which is
Bless
scary, though.
your heart.
But tell me it's not scary when
I know it
people
is
are
scary.
so
Absolutely.
cuckoo. Like it's
Yep.
just, I don't
Yep.
know.
Well, as we record this, Sigmund's execution took place yesterday. So
Wow.
very still fresh in the news.
Yeah.
And it will likely continue to increase controversy over the use of firing squad and death sentences altogether. For instance, Idaho, I told you they make an appearance. One of the 5 states to employ this method as an option is getting closer to using the firing squad as the state's primary method of execution. This is critical as the trial of accused university killer Brian Koberger approaches. Koberger is accused of stabbing and killing 4 University Idaho students November 13th, 2022. Madison Mogan, 21, Kaylee Gonclaves, 21, Zaina Kernodle, 20, and Ethan Chapin, 20. Do you remember that? We talked about that. It was horrible.
Terrible story. Terrible.
The 30-year-old Koberger faces the death penalty if convicted, and his trial is expected to begin in August later this year. Koberger's defense team initially sought to remove the death penalty as a possible punishment, but this was denied. In another effort to defend Koberger facing the death penalty in the last few weeks, his defense team filed a motion to remove the death penalty due to Koberger's autism disorder. They also filed a motion to redact or seal newly filed records, which would support their motion to remove the death penalty. It's all sealed. Nobody knows what this is as of yet.
Okay.
Should Idaho pass the bill and Koberger be convicted, he would be executed by firing squad as the primary method. Currently, there is no other scheduled execution in the state of Idaho, no other scheduled firing squad executions in any of the other 4 states who allow it, including South Carolina. There is a long, controversial history over the use of the death penalty in any form. Arguments for the death penalty include that it's a form of retribution, to deter crime, protect society. However, opponents do argue that it's inhumane, violates human rights, and is ineffective. It is likely this debate will continue many years So, chatters. Nat, what
Yeah.
are your thoughts?
So I'm confused about this injection.
Yeah.
So what I don't understand is I honestly find it to be propaganda bullshit because here we could euthanize a pet, a dear pet, and be there. And the pet, you see them put the pet to sleep and
Mhm,
then they
mhm.
inject something else for their heart to stop. It's a
Yep.
very humane thing. It's an
Yep.
easy thing.
It's like the
Why?
fentanyl that puts them to sleep, and then the what's it called? Barbiturol. I can't
Right.
remember. But that,
Tell
yeah, that's the one that actually stops their heart. Yes.
Right. So tell me again why we're not good enough as doctors and scientists that we can't just replicate that system over to human beings. Why is there a
So
problem?
I don't know this for sure in the Marion Bowman case, but the argument was it took him 20 minutes to be declared dead, in which he drowned and asphyxiated.
Okay. And that may be true, but
Right.
who is to
But we
say
don't
that it
know.
wasn't the problem that the doctor was not at fault here? Maybe
Oh
he
no,
did not.
absolutely.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so anesthesiologists, they are very like it's almost like chemistry. Every human
Oh, I
body
know.
is different. When you go to the hospital and they put you under, one concoction is not good for all. Like they have to sit there and read your chart and see how
Mhm.
much of this you can take and that much. That's I just feel
Yeah.
like they get it right. I mean, you rarely hear something going wrong in operate, and
Mhm.
there are situations, but
Sure, sure.
it's the exception, not the rule.
So
Why
I think
can't
that,
we do that here? I feel like there's a little bit of a
and
problem here.
I mean, obviously the state upheld it and said, it's not an inhumane treatment at this point in time. It's still under review at the federal level. I do believe
What is the
lethal
injection?
injection. They're going to
I
continue it, but it's under review kind of thing.
they need to
Especially,
figure it out. They need to. That's
well, they get it's like two or three doses. The first one puts him to sleep.
right.
The second one, like,
Kills them.
makes him not move, and then the third one kills him. Or one or
Hey,
the other. Or like the first one kills him, the second one's just like a just in case, or the third, kind of thing. So they not might not necessarily feel anything, but when you have an autopsy that's done and said that there was fluid in the lungs and is indicative of this type of death caused by lethal injection,
right.
any people who are against it are going to use it. You know
Of
what I'm saying?
course.
Even
Of
though that
course.
person probably, maybe, I don't know for sure, they probably didn't feel it. It's not like
Right.
they did suffer.
This makes me
Electrocution, I mean,
question
you're gonna
everything.
you're gonna suffer.
This makes me question that now just euthanizing an animal. Like, what are you telling me that they can't replicate that peaceful
Mhm.
situation to that?
Yeah,
That's ridiculous. We could put
yeah.
people on the moon. We have people in submarines all over the world.
Look,
You're telling
any
me we
any
can
strings people can pull, they're gonna pull it.
I know, but it just seems like a weird thing not to be able to
Yeah,
perfect. Like it just seems like there's a reason why you're not being,
yeah.
there's a reason why. I don't
If
necessarily like the firing squad.
Well, the firing squad is the time of death it takes. Like, it doesn't mean that there's more suffering, less suffering, but it just takes less time to die. Documented medically shown, as far as it took him less than 3 minutes and he was declared dead. Whereas his friend, it took like at least 20 minutes before he was declared dead. So that's, I think, what they were looking at. I can't say one or the other. Why don't you give the guy the fentanyl to make him go to
Right.
sleep and then shoot him?
Right.
Why can't you do both?
Exactly. That's a
Why
great
can't you like put him to
alternative.
sleep instead of lethal injection? I mean, and obviously it's going to be up to the person, especially in this state. They give the death row inmates an option. Pick
That's
one.
good. So what
I
I
like
don't
that.
what I do too, what I don't like about the firing squad though, it's actually creating more victims because these volunteers, these three volunteers that
Mhm.
are playing executioner, like
Well,
like
so
that just seems a little on the nose for PTSD later on in life. You don't know who these people are. You're randomly saying
well,
they're
no,
all
they're all Department of Corrections employees,
so what is
and they're
like
they're ones that are the one from some of the stuff I've seen are ones that are very good at firearms as far as like point
okay,
and click and you hit your target.
and that's fine, but to be an executioner, to
Mhm.
willfully kill somebody has got to do something to them. Has
Sure.
got to do,
And
I
who
mean,
would volunteer for that?
right, and most police officers would say like, yeah, that's a little much. Like even
So
people
here's
that are
an alternative Idaho. What Idaho does, if people opt for it now, but until it potentially becomes a primary method, is they have five executioners. Three of the rifles are loaded, two of them have blanks. They don't know which one is which. I like that because you don't know if you're the one that actually killed the person, but you're doing your job in a way. I don't know. They're not
I
going
don't
to
know.
trace it back to, it's not like a crime scene investigation. They're not going to trace the rounds back to which rifle shot. I mean, you know.
No, I know, but it really is
So,
creating further damage to people because there are people that come back from war after doing terrible things in the line of duty, and they are just a mess. I just feel like this is just a more localized of that, like where they're in the line of duty killing somebody. And as righteous as, it just because it just seems, I get it. No, I don't actually. I don't get it. I've been
I mean,
working I've been
if
working
that's
in
the
mental health
case,
my entire life, and I've always seen veterans that are dealing with a lot of post-traumatic stress, especially when they come back. Yeah, and you don't
I know.
know. It just seems like you're creating more.
It's almost like bring back the hangings then. Put me to sleep and let me hang.
Now that must be a very painful death.
I
But
know.
you're right. Inject a little fentanyl,
Put me to sleep. Look, when I had my
swing
surgery,
away.
I got a nerve block before I actually gone into surgery and given the anesthesia.
Hmm.
I don't remember anything after the nerve block. Nothing. I don't know if I told you this. They were waiting on me to get there
Right.
because the surgeon had gone a little quicker in the morning and I didn't have to be there until noon.
Mm.
And they called me at 10:30 and said, "Hey, can you come sooner?" And I said, "Well, I'll get there as soon as I can." Like, I wasn't planning on it, but I'll get there as soon
Right.
as I can. So when
Right.
we got there, they were like, bam, 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 bam. Like, usually you could spend a couple hours in pre-op. Nope.
Yeah, they're ready.
40 minutes.
It's like
40 minutes, maybe.
it's like a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
And I honestly think, Kat, I'll just leave this here. I honestly think this is highly political because I
Oh,
think that
100%. Yes.
the injections can be a well-oiled machine, but there is something that is preventing that system from being well-oiled because people are
Yes.
it's 50-50 split. A lot of people don't
Yeah.
like it. A lot of people want it. It's too controversial to have it to a point where it's too easy to do.
Yeah.
They want it to make it difficult because
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I don't think anybody wants to suffer in death.
No,
You know what
no,
I'm
nobody
saying?
wants you to suffer in death, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that what he did is terrible. I mean, there are terrible, terrible people
No,
out there.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know how to feel about this. This puts, I'm divided emotionally right now because I don't know. I don't know. What do you feel? You didn't give me your opinion.
It may not be a popular opinion. And like I said, it's divided. I
Mm-hmm.
do feel if you tortured somebody and you killed somebody, I mean, and essentially, if your defense is saying that only God can choose people to die, you're saying God chose you to kill them, like by his path. Like, I don't understand that. Like, that doesn't make sense.
No.
I do feel that it should be, if found convicted,
Mm-hmm.
if, all appeals and all the judicial proceedings and stuff have been exhausted, you should be killed in the way that you killed.
Oh, with the bat to the head. Is that what
Bam!
he should?
You want to know what your victim suffered? This is what
Yeah.
they suffered. And I
Oof.
feel that from, I would say, more so like the victim side. I
Uh-huh.
don't give a flippin' flying fuck if you were drunk and high off your ass when you did it. You still
Girl,
did it.
this is Judge Kit Kat. Order in her court. Order. You know what I was thinking?
Objection!
Objection.
Sustained!
But you know something? What also plays into this that they're fucking up for a reason because there is a company out there that sells these pods, these death
Yeah.
pods. I think it's like Switzerland or Sweden or whatever. And you pay a certain amount. So if you want to die, you can die. Like there are
Yeah.
people that are actually one reported. I think they had one person that actually did it.
Is that like a medical assistant or anything? Or just they suffocate and
No, you sit down
starve to
in
death?
this Lady Gaga pod. You remember that egg? Like that Lady
Yeah.
Gaga
Oh
egg?
no, I'm totally
Looks like
picturing
that.
the egg. Yes, yes.
So it looks like that. You sit down in it and they pump in gas and they monitor your
Okay.
heart rate and everything like that. And then so far, like this one person just died slowly, like not painfully, but like went to sleep and then passed away. And then they
I don't,
take the pod and they just bury you in the pod.
yeah. I honestly don't care how I die. I just don't want to be awake for it. So knock me the fuck out. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
it's
saying?
true.
The pods, and was it part of that, like not organic, but like a naturalism kind of
Yes.
thought
Yes.
process behind it? Okay.
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
can, but they have the technology to do that, but they can't do that for inmates. They should just give inmates, create a pod, an inmate pod, but do it that way.
well, then you're gonna have people saying that's taxpayers' money. Rah, 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 rah. I mean,
Well,
there's gonna be
yeah,
an argument to anything that's
it's true.
proposed regarding how we handle our justice system. It's been there. We did a posthumous pardons episode, I think, like back in season 1 too. And I get it. Some people who are on death row and are executed prove through DNA because of advanced technology that this was not the person who actually did it and they died for a crime they didn't commit.
Yeah.
Get that. So Brad Sigmund's case, I did it. I'm not blaming anybody else for it. I regret it. I hate that I did it, but I did it. I'm accepting my fate.
Good. I mean, that then you're dying the way you should die, remorseful.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
And these people who are guilty and plead innocence to the end, I think it just makes it more difficult. And I think there's some statistics that say that it is less expensive to have somebody in prison for life than to be executed. And I think that just depends on the type of execution too. But the biggest argument over the lethal injection was the type of medications and where it was coming from. They weren't working.
Right. And not to mention, I think that's an excuse making it more expensive because of all the appeals and all this stuff.
Absolutely.
It's
because they go back and forth. Yep.
It's broken in that way. So but
so to answer your question, I mean, for me, I do think the death penalty, as long as everything has been exhausted, they've pled guilty, that they, especially, you've got Pee Wee Gaskins. He was fucking horrible. There's been so many people that have just done so many torturous things.
Right.
That deserve nothing less than what they gave.
Yes.
And that's my opinion.
I agree.
Now, I do feel very, very strongly that people who are wrongly convicted, and they should also exhaust any means possible for an overturn of the conviction or whatever, right? But I think that like you were saying, like technology today and like where we are today, there's no reason why a lot of it is technicalities. There's a lot of things that are thrown out and elongated due to technicalities. And you're going to get that anytime there's humans involved. It's human error. It's going to happen. So anyway, I don't know. I just brought you the facts.
That's a real current event. Like that literally happened yesterday.
Literally happened yesterday. Yeah.
Wow. Oh God. Oh, well, thank you for
down the road in Columbia.
Yeah. How far away from you is this?
Less than an hour to downtown. Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. That was
not going there anytime soon.
That was good. We normally don't get like a new case like this, like real time.
To be fair, I was going to talk about this case anyways. So I was going to do a different case that I decided because of its unknown and spookiness and pushing till our bonus episode in a couple weeks. And I was like, I need another one. And then I sent you this and I was like, oh my God, this guy's firing squad execution. Like, what the heck? So I was planning on doing the story anyways. It just happened to be really relevant that he was executed yesterday. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Crazy. Talk about crazy. Timely. Who says our podcast isn't timely?
Thank you for that case. Well, chatters, because we don't leave you hanging. For more information on this case, I mean, literally, it's in the news as we speak.
Yes. I've got so many links. So many links that I put in after that CrimeChat. Yeah. Okay. And plus some pictures from his original trial from 2002. There's some things that we'll have on Patreon.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Don't forget to follow us on our socials. CrimeChat with Nat and Kat on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and X. See what we got going on.
Remember CrimeChat with Nat and Kat. When you become a VIP chatter to our Patreon, you'll have access to bonus episodes, behind the scenes, bloopers, and free merch. And check out some merch in the works.
And don't forget to check out our next episode. It's Natalie's story. Do you know what you're doing yet?
I think I do. I think I do. I think I do.
I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can.
You don't want to miss it, chatters.
We'll see you next time. Bye.